Hello. It's great to be able to have a conversation today with Kate Stewart from Aberdare Park Primary School, who's going to talk to us about how they have used in their school the CSC curriculum design model. CSC have recently released a new Curriculum for Wales website to support all schools across the region in their journey to curriculum rollout. There are links on the professional learning offer, research, resources, and up-to-date releases, and it's also home to our design thinking model. Design thinking is an internationally recognised approach that has been applied to curriculum design. Working through the phases of this model can support schools in the development of their school curriculum. So let's meet Kate. Kate, lovely to meet you. Would you like to introduce yourself and give us a background of your school?
So hi, I'm Kate. I am leader of learning and teaching at Aberdare Park Primary School and also the Year 3 class teacher. We are a relatively big school with 9 classes and 30 members of staff, approximately 304 pupils with 33% free school meals, 6% ALN. Our local area is a mixture of private housing, private rental housing and social housing. We are in a reasonably deprived area, but we do have the beautiful Aberdare Park across the road, which is an amazing resource.
I can imagine what a lovely place there to visit and to use in lots of ways, I'm sure. Thank you, Kate. Thank you for introducing yourself and giving us your school's context. We'd love to find out now how you've used the design thinking model to support the design of your school curriculum. Which aspects of the model perhaps have you found the most helpful?
So the design thinking model has been key within our curriculum design at Aberdare Park, especially its alignment to the Journey to Curriculum Rollout document, as it brings that abstract picture of the curriculum into a more supportive and helpful tool, especially for us on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been so helpful having everything in one place. You know, we're not searching around for different things, different documents, everything is there on that website.
So
it's also
central location has been really helpful for you as a school to ensure that, as you said, everything is there. It's allowing you to access things quickly and easily.
Oh, definitely. And I think that aids in developing professional learning for staff because they can just be signposted to one place and don't have to search, you know, through a variety of different
things to find what they need. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's also, you know, that the design model has allowed all of our staff and stakeholders to begin to see, but also understand the need for taking the curriculum design process slow. You know, it's and opening up the continual reflection process. We're implementing things, the trialing things, and then feeding things back, constantly reviewing that curriculum, and that model allows us to. It gives us that sense of
direction, I suppose, just to allow
that sense of direction. So that it gives us that permission to do that and to not feel like we have to have the curriculum in one hit, really.
Yeah, certainly. And whilst we recognise that it's curriculum rollout to 2022, it is not by any means to say that this is a curriculum that needs to be finished and completed by September 22. It's an iterative process, isn't it? So yeah, if this gives permission to allow you to recognise that you'll be constantly moving through the phases, then that's really pleased to hear. No, that's super. So the main goal of the empathise stage is really to gain a deep understanding of the needs of your learners, staff, and the community that you work in, your school context, really. So how did you use the model to help you with this? In what ways did you develop the right climate of change, maybe within your school? I wonder if you could share your screen, Kate, and as you talk us through this, you might be able to demonstrate the website there.
Here we go. Okay, so can you see the screen here with the wonderful website?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we use the empathise phase. So going onto the website, it's easy to navigate, so we can just scroll through and it gives everything in detail. But with the empathise phase here, We were able to really understand our learners and our school context. We've reached out to parents in the wider community for their voices on what they think their children should know, what they think their children should be able to do and experience. And this phase is conducting research to develop an understanding of your users. You know, we've also looked at pupil voice. It's currently being undertaken by our school council, and this feedback will be built upon in autumn too. And it's all focused on developing our school vision, which is then reflected upon in every different approach that we trial. Focusing on this stage allowed us to reflect on how our staff feel with change. You know, change management is a huge aspect of curriculum for Wales. And we had to reflect on how we can manage the change that is coming for our staff by supporting them and scaffolding them. So we did some questionnaires with our staff. We formed a starting point from our journey based on the staff needs, because ultimately our staff are the ones that are on the ground delivering that curriculum.
Absolutely. And it's important, isn't it, that the investment, the time is given to ensure that people have time to make sense of these materials and to process the information. And that's one of the key aspects, isn't it, of the empathise stage, that time and space is given to really embed that understanding. Because as you say, you need to ensure that before you're able to move forward in a coherent way. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Kate. It is really important within the empathise stage, as well as what we've just said there, to ensure that everybody involved in this curriculum design process has a deep whole school understanding of the Curriculum for Wales framework, your current curriculum offer, the pedagogy that you're wanting to use to enable all your learners to reach their full potential, and also to understand curriculum design, which in itself is quite a complex model, isn't it? So what would you say within the defines phase, after you've spent the time necessary to embed this thinking, was the most important aspect?
So if I go to the design, do you want to go to the design?
Thank you, Kate, that would be great.
Yeah. In the define phase, as you said, that curriculum design understanding for all staff is paramount. And we used this define phase, so understanding your user needs, to identify the needs of our staff. You know, what knowledge and skills and understanding do our staff need to move forward in line with the curriculum vision? Staff need a deeper understanding of the changes between Curriculum 2008 and the Curriculum for Wales, which is a purpose-led curriculum. And this phase allowed all of our AOLE teams to compare the curriculums to reflect on their area of learning and experience through a SASH model. So it's not throwing the baby out of the bathwater. You know, it is looking at the things we do well, what things can we adapt, what things can we start. And I think it was important, and it still is. I think our main priority is to improve staff knowledge, so that they can then deliver a lovely curriculum for our learners.
And they're empowered, aren't they, by the deep understanding they have of the framework. Kate, would you mind scrolling down for me and just sharing some of the questions, perhaps? Did you use some of those questions to help you in this process?
Yes, definitely. So we've done some twilight sessions with our staff, and we have shared many of the questions, especially within the ideate phase and the further phases down, where we're asking staff to reflect upon their planning, and deciding on what our curriculum is going to include. So these questions have been really, really prominent in our thinking as SLT, as a whole school staff, and making sure that we are keeping in the direction that we want things to go.
So using those questions as prompts within each of the phases have been really useful for you. They've prompted staff discussion, as you've said, and they've enabled you to ensure that you are working coherently within each of the different phases. Yeah, that's really good to hear. Did you find the signposting of resources useful to embed each of those phases rather than pushing on too quickly?
Oh, definitely. I think the signposting and the resources has been so helpful and time saving, especially, you know, with teaching at the moment. Everyone is overwhelmed with things, and we haven't got to go searching for anything that backs up, you know, what we're saying or the research behind why we're doing what we're doing. So these links have honestly been wonderful and a massive help. And in fact, we've used them within our performance management meetings with staff, you know, to signpost them, especially within their own targets. If they wanted to develop their understanding of assessment for learning, or they wanted to understand their to deepen their understanding of curriculum for Wales, for example, then we have used this website to signpost staff to resources that will help deepen their understanding and knowledge.
That's great. And very often it's having the time to search for those things, isn't it? As we've said, and you don't know what you don't know. So having things at your fingertips to be able to engage with really does help. So that's really pleasing to hear. Thank you, Kate. So if we're thinking about the ideate stage, or really I should ask, where do you think currently as a school you're working within? Do you think you've worked right the way through the model? Do you think you're working part the way through? Are you revisiting certain sections? Where would you say you're working as a school now?
I think we're definitely heavily moving between define, ideate, prototype and test. So we're not actually only focusing on one area of the model, and we're constantly moving through a variety of different steps, because we are taking our curriculum design process relatively slow to make sure things are embedded, those foundations are in place. So it does mean, you know, we have to define what we mean by inquiry-based learning, you know, provide that professional learning for our staff. Then we ideate and we think about what that would look like in practice, and we test it, and then we come back and reflect it and then adapt it. So and then we'll move on to the next thing that we're doing to implement the curriculum. So I definitely think it's not a one phase at a time. You might have many things going at the same time, or continually moving through 2 or 3 of those steps.
Yeah, but recognizing that you may need to move back and you need to take your time to reflect and allow yourself to move back is an important aspect, isn't it, of design thinking when you're designing your curriculum model. So the ideate phase, the phase that we're looking at now, that's very much about working together, collaborating, generating ideas, isn't it? How did this model help you achieve that?
So this model has really helped us achieve professional dialogue. You know, we have a really renewed sense of building a culture where professional discussions and engaging in these discussions are open. You know, we have regular staff meetings where, you know, they're not, well, they are purposeful, and allows all staff to feedback and share and talk about, well, what should we teach and why, and if we've trialed inquiry-based learning or metacognition, or at the moment we're doing transdisciplinary themes. You know, it's all about allowing staff and giving staff that culture of time, culture of trust, just to share, well, what's going on in the ground, what's working well, what's not working well. And in fact, it's allowed us to, you know, map out our curriculum together. What do our children need to know? And get all of our general knowledge together of what we know about curriculum and curriculum design already.
And your learners very much at the heart of that, because it's your school, it's your learners, it's your context, isn't it? And that's really important. Trust, openness, honesty is very important for professional dialogue. And as you said, starting with the questions, not the answers, asking yourself, well, why are we doing this? And I know you've alluded to that already, thinking very much about the why. Do you want to explain how you've used the ideate stage to do that as well, Kate?
Yes, of course. So we've used the ideate stage in relation to the golden circle approach of asking why. You know, why are we doing what we're doing? If it's important for our children to learn about World War II, then why? You know, what relevance does that have on our learners' lives? What currently, how can that help shape their futures? So everything we have done is through looking at what we should teach and why. Then looking at how we teach it, so developing pedagogy, and that is massive for our school at the moment. Looking at different pedagogical approaches, trialing new ways of teaching, not new ways of teaching, but trying different ways of teaching, but also understanding how what we've planned to teach or what we would like to include in our curriculum, how is that supporting our children realising the four purposes?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's important to come back to the why rather than going very activities focused, picking a theme from thin air, and that the ideate phase has allowed us to really focus on that why and provide that coherence.
Yeah, that's great. Really important, isn't it, to recognise that we should be structuring the learning, but in terms of knowledge, skills and experiences, and recognising what our learners need to make the progress. What would you say, Kate, thinking about the prototype phase as we move forward, how has that helped you to identify what has and what has not worked? Because to some extent, there is the time built in within this design thinking model to reflect, which is so important. But it is also important to be that critical friend, isn't it? And to evaluate really critically, well, what has worked, but also what hasn't worked. How have you used the model to do that, Kate, would you say?
So prototype, it is one of the key areas that we're working on at the moment. We do have a blue triangle year, as we call it within our school. So it is allowing staff and giving staff that freedom to trial things, and by having regular feedback sessions with staff and where they do feel trusted to share and feedback by saying, this isn't working well, this hasn't worked as well on the ground, or this has worked amazingly, that the depth of the learning has been there. And in fact, we're in a massive prototype phase coming into autumn 2 now, where we're introducing 6 whole school transdisciplinary themes to ensure coherence across the curriculum. And then each theme is progressive through units of inquiry and different conceptual lenses. Now, we have no idea how this is going to go, but we are for autumn 1, we looked at concept-based learning. So then it's building on it for autumn 2. And our staff, I have to be honest, are wonderful. They really will give it a go and trial things and be honest about it, because the teachers are the ones delivering that curriculum for our learners.
Absolutely. And it's using staff voice then, isn't it, to inform your next steps. But very much thinking about that coherence, as you said, the selection, the sequencing of the knowledge, skills and experiences, ensuring that progression is very much there, is a big part of this phase, isn't it? How have you ensured that those professional dialogue conversations have allowed you to move forward in terms of progression, would you say?
So we have, regular meetings, we have regular twilights and inset days with staff where we sit in a circle, so it's a lot more informal and it's less formal and someone's at the front dictating things. It's allowing that space for open communication. But we also do it through questionnaires as well. So it is sometimes things can be anonymous. So we find that staff actually want to share a little bit more honest. So yeah, it's just allowing staff that freedom to share what's going well, and then we adapt our journey based on the needs of the staff. And if actually we're going too fast in one area or they'd like more time to embed things, then we take that on board and we give more time, or we ensure our research inquiries as a school go down the route of what our staff need.
So would you say that you developed a shared understanding of progression very much by bringing everything together, by looking at what the learning looks like right across the school and really making people part of those conversations?
Yeah, definitely. What we have started doing is to develop our own sequences of learning, of knowledge, skills and experiences. And that has to be a whole staff task, because we've all got so much knowledge and teaching of different year groups, and we tend to start with year 6 and work our way back with what it might look in progression step 3 to 2 and then 1, and then that allows us all as staff to understand the progression throughout the years, and we are progression is a difficult concept to get your head around, especially in the curriculum for Wales. So it's been really, really nice to have those discussions and that dialogue with our staff, so that we are all, you know, on the same page.
Yeah, and understanding together and sharing knowledge and experience, really important. And the aspects to be considered as well within progression is recognising child development and making sure that you having those conversations within the understanding of child development as well, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Kate. So what would you say, you mentioned earlier about your vision and how your vision really informs all the decisions that you've made throughout your curriculum design process. What would you say if you think about the implement phase, which very much is about bringing your vision to life, isn't it really? What would you say within that phase?
So everything we do relate back to our so it's about thinking, well, we want our children to develop inquisitive minds. So how are we going to do that? You know, as schools, we've all said we want resilient learners. Well, if we want resilient learners, then we have to purposefully plan opportunities within our curriculum to allow our children to develop resilient skills. So everything that we are putting into our curriculum and our curriculum design, we always reflect back to our Inspire vision, our Inspire curriculum aims. So if we want to develop inquisitive minds, then we are going down a route of inquiry-based learning. So everything we have done, we always link back to our Inspire aims. How does this support children in developing nurturing hearts, in being resilient and respectful? And it's making sure that we're not just picking up on fads and picking up on things that seem fun and exciting from what other schools are doing. We are going on our own journey for the needs of our school, our vision and our learners.
Your learners right at the heart, and as you said, making sure that everything you're doing, you're questioning all the time. What are our learners learning? How are they making progress? Lovely activities may be great fun, but actually what's the purpose of them? How are they ensuring learner progress? Oh, absolutely. So Kate, it's been great to chat to you today, and to have this conversation around the design thinking model, but to find out more about your process as well. What would you say as a takeaway, Kate? What would you say? What advice really would you give to schools working on curriculum design?
I would definitely say take it slow. You know, one of the biggest things I say to our staff is Rome wasn't built in a day and it's never finished. And that's how we have to view our curriculum. And taking the journey slow has allowed us to develop and open up a culture of professional dialogue and inquiry for our staff. As I mentioned, we have that blue triangle year where staff have that space and opportunity to trial the approaches and are encouraged to give things a go based on their evidence-informed practice. I would definitely recommend building that culture to promote team learning and collaboration among staff, whilst developing trust and respect as core values is key. It's opening up, is a whole school journey. You know, having that regular dialogue for that knowledge to be exchanged is key.
And clear plans, clear steps, clear ways forward. And as you've explained today, having the design thinking model has really helped and supported, given that scaffold, given that structure that you've needed to allow you to move forward, but to recognise when perhaps you might need to move backwards. Thank you, Kate.
Yeah.
It's been great to have that conversation today, and very much looking forward to finding out how you continue it with your curriculum journey. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you very much. Thank you.